Nikki is happy to get on her knees for Donald Trump because she is a puppet for the administration, repeating whatever lines they hand her. Donald Trump hates the United Nations, and that is why he's sending his shiny new chaos demon, Nicki Minaj, to play in their faces and waste everyone's time on an imaginary side quest that is void of reality. That's right, Nicki Minaj has been chosen to speak at the United Nations. The appearance is being sold as part of an effort to spotlight the alleged persecution of Christians in Nigeria. These narratives have been used by certain U.S. officials to cast the situation as a severe religious crisis and to justify inviting an otherwise irrelevant global celebrity to comment on it. Nigeria itself rejects the idea that Christians are uniquely targeted and maintains that the violence is a multifaceted security crisis. The United Nations has not declared that Nigeria or any groups in the country are carrying out systemic persecution of Christians. In fact, Christians and Muslims are targeted or otherwise impacted. Nikki's involvement doesn't come from any history of engagement with West African politics, human rights, or religious freedom. She has not built relationships with Nigerian civil society groups or shown sustained interest in the communities she now claims to speak for. This is not a late career turn towards humanitarianism. No, it is a moment of cultural minstrelsy in which she serves as a convenient mouthpiece for an administration that understands how to weaponize celebrity noise for political gain. The United Nations podium gives her a special kind of stolen valor. Her presence gives Donald a culture war trophy, and the suffering of real people becomes a backdrop for a spectacle. The dynamic mirrors an earlier moment when Trump claimed white farmers in South Africa were being persecuted for being white and even offered them asylum in the United States. He took a complicated mix of land disputes, violent crime, and historical racial tensions and flattened it into a simple racial persecution narrative that resonated with parts of his base, despite being rejected by analysts, the South African government, and, you guessed it, the United Nations. The framing surrounding Nigerian Christians functions the same way. To understand why Nikki fits into this structure, it helps to look at the mythology she has spent years cultivating. She has built a narrative in which every setback is evidence of an otherworldly war. Every feud becomes spiritual combat, and every criticism is proof of an enemy aligned with dark forces. This mythology is not accidental. It is the scaffolding she uses to frame herself as chosen, persecuted, and perpetually righteous. The same logic appears in Donald, who calls himself the chosen one and treats criticism as spiritual warfare. Nikki's mythology lands in the same territory. When celebrity figures define themselves as chosen, they invite followers to respond with loyalty that looks less like normal fandom and more like devotion to a self absorbed cult leader. Doubt becomes betrayal, criticism becomes sacrilege. This is what makes Nikki an ideal instrument for the Trump administration. Donald's circle knows they don't need respected diplomatic voices. They need loud ones. They need rabid ones. They need people with massive parasocial armies, people who thrive on contradiction, people who can turn a policy talking point into a viral event. Like when Nikki said someone's testicles fell off because they took the COVID vaccine, or whatever it was she said. Loudness becomes legitimacy, conflict becomes influence, spectacle becomes truth. Her United Nations appearance is not about Nigeria, Christians, or humanitarian concern. It is about brand laundering. Trump gains validation from a celebrity. Nikki gains validation from a political institution she would never otherwise touch. Both get headlines, both get victory laps, both get to troll their critics. The administration does not want an expert, it wants a whore, a celebrity whose fan culture can be mobilized like a digital militia. This is the collapse of seriousness. The United Nations podium is meant for diplomats, advocates, and researchers who have spent years understanding conflicts in the world. Instead, it is being handed to someone with no policy background, no ties to the region, and no track record for engagement. someone whose public persona is defined not by humanitarian work, but by conspiratorial rhetoric, spiritual grandiosity, and online warfare. The result is the influencerification of geopolitics, the TikTokification of diplomacy, the celebrity industrial complex expanding into global policy. Proximity to a presidential administration reinforces Nikki's sense of untouchable status. Claiming to stand for persecuted Christians gives her a moral shield against criticism, allowing her to frame dissent as hate or jealousy rather than accountability. The spectacle gives her global attention, and the political alliance gives her a new audience eager to embrace her as a cultural prize. Through the lens of her own mythology, this is not a surprise. In the worldview she has cultivated, demons are everywhere. Divine favor is proven by attention, and persecution is proof of destiny. She casts out shadows that she herself projects. She calls out forces she claims to fight while consuming the energy they generate. In that sense, her alignment with Donald and her arrival to the United Nations are not detours from her mythology, they are its natural evolution. The prophet has found her pulpit. The performance has found its stage. And the world becomes the congregation asked to believe that this is light when everything about it is shaped by wicked shadow. Nikki is happy to get on her knees for Donald Trump because she is a puppet for the administration, repeating whatever lines they hand her because the trade off flatters her ego. She is not there to advocate, but to perform, a celebrity prop dressed up as a stateswoman. The administration pulls the strings and she happily dances because the illusion of global relevance matters more to her than actual integrity. She will use the United Nations stage the same way she uses every stage, desperate to prove she is important. She will not use the United Nations stage as a platform for the vulnerable. She will use it as a mirror to admire herself.